Good morning, all the students. Today we will learn the respiratory system. Actually, on Google page, there is an availability of some animated videos that I would like to share my screen. I shared my screen. Is it visible? Okay. Let us see how that respiratory system works in our body. Now, this is the process of breathing which takes place in our body, and that breathing means inspiration and expiration. This is the thoracic cavity. Uppermost, this was the sternum. These are the different ribs which are present here, and from thoracic cavity below that there is a presence of diaphragm which separates thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavity. Lungs having three lobes. This is the uppermost, it is the right superior lobe, right middle lobe, and right inferior lobe. In the same manner, the another left lungs, it is smaller, it has two chambers. Uppermost is the left superior and lower is the left inferior. And in this both lungs, air is supplied by two bronchioles, and here that there is a trachea. This trachea is protected by the cartilaginous rings. These are the incompletely C-shaped rings, and these windpipes come up in the pharynx, and from pharynx it attaches to the nasal chamber and air blows from that. At the time of inspiration, air comes through the nose, it enters through the trachea, it thereafter enters into the bronchus, and that bronchus divides and redivides many times, and ultimately it forms very fine branches. These fine branches are called as bronchioles, and these bronchioles are ultimately reaches to the alveoli. Lot of elastic alveoli are present here, and which are surrounded by huge capillaries, and within that alveoli abundant of oxygen which come along with the inspiratory air. That oxygen molecules, they get diffuses into the blood capillaries. As soon as oxygen molecule comes here, lot of RBCs, they are moving along with these blood capillaries. They come in contact with these oxygen molecules, these blue colored oxygen molecules one. And when they come in contact with the RBCs, here now that RBCs becomes oxygenated and they becomes red in color. And thereafter, whatever CO2 released by the RBCs, it is get diffused through this wall, and now it enters into the alveolus. From alveolus it enters into the small airways, and thereafter it goes to the bronchioles, and that bronchioles collected that CO2. That CO2 is expelled out. It reaches to the next part. By that way it reaches to the bronchus, and from bronchus entire expiratory air blowing through the trachea, and through nose it is get expelled out. So this is the inspiratory and expiratory process, and it has been done due to the intercostal muscles which are present in the cage and diaphragm. Contraction of diaphragm and contraction of intercostal muscles brought about this kind of mechanism of inspiration and expiration. Now let us see exhalation. Now what happened here? This diaphragm relaxes, and here at the same time the intercostal muscles, they get also relaxed, so that more and more pressure has been exerted on the lungs, and hence air is pushed out. We call it as a expiration or exhalation. And at the time of inspiration, intercostal muscles, they contract, diaphragm also contract, so that internal cavity becomes larger and air rushes into the lungs. So let us see once again summary. This is the diaphragm. Thereafter, this is the cage or ribs of the chest. This is the right lungs. It has three chambers, and First one is the superior, right middle, and last one right inferior. Left lung is smaller. It has two compartments. Uppermost is the left superior and lower is the left inferior. Both these lungs, they are attached with the bronchi, and both the bronchi, they form a common passage of air passage. That passage is called as trachea with incompletely C-shaped rings, cartilaginous rings. Now air enters through nose, through the respiratory tract. It is called as trachea. Thereafter it enters into the bronchi, and thereafter it divides and redivides many times, and ultimately air rushes into the bronchioles, and from bronchioles air goes to the alveoli. All these alveoli, they have profuse blood supply, and in which the alveoli possesses abundant oxygen. That oxygen molecules diffuses into the blood capillaries. RBCs removes or absorb that oxygen molecules, and they becomes red colored. At the same time, these RBCs releases CO2 molecules. Now that CO2 molecules are diffused out of the blood capillaries into the lung alveoli, and now that carbon dioxide molecule enters from alveoli to very small capillaries of airways, and thereafter it reaches to the backward pathway. So by this way, this inspiration and expiration takes place in our body. Now I would like to say one more thing here. This video is also, we are studied in animated previous videos, but this video I have taken from the Google, and it is very nice. It is very easy for our understanding. It is not only explaining the inspiration and expiration, but here at the same time this video is easy for understanding how the exchange of gases takes place on the alveolar surface, right? So rest of the details we will learn in the next lecture. Thank you.